Sure. Bow with me. Dear Heavenly Father, Lord, we thank you for this day. And Lord, we just ask that you be with us today as we conduct the county's business and just give us the wisdom and forethought to know what you would have us to do on your behalf. Lord, just continue to be with all those that are struggling with this pandemic and those frontline workers out there. We just thank you so much for keeping them safe. And we just pray all these things in the name of your Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll go ahead and call Marshall County Fiscal Court to order. Before we get started, I know Wade's here. He's probably going to get a phone call at any time, but I wanted him to give y'all a quick update on the insurance claim we filed with the lightning strike on the generator. So,
Good morning, everybody.
morning.
Just want to let you know, 2 months ago, we filed an insurance claim on a generator struck by lightning. It was a generator powering the tower at the school. It keeps our communications going if something happens, say the power grid goes down or fails. We have our radio communications for hours on end until we run out of propane, which can still be refilled. But anyway, I wanted to let you know that generator's coming in today and should be set up, replace the one that was struck by lightning, and we should be ready to go this afternoon, hopefully. I'll let y'all know next time when it gets done. So just wanted everybody to know that was coming in.
All right, perfect.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you. We'll go ahead and move under item A, Champ and Kane from Rivercrest. There he is. Good morning, sir. This is going to be about the change order on the contract and contract extensions. You should have a copy of it.
How y'all doing?
Good.
Just a quick update on the project there at Southwest 1. Contract and focus has moved over there to the interceptor sewer there behind the golf course. And looks like the last week and a half or so, we're finally getting into maybe a little bit of a dry weather pattern, so production's picking up a little bit for the guys over there, and they're moving right along. And you can see there on the change order, as part of that, they're requesting a time extension to take the contract through the end of November. The contractor's hopeful they can get all the pipe in the ground by the end of October, and then be doing a lot of testing and other type of that work that last month of the contract. So we're hoping for good weather, but also planning for some unknowns here coming up through the next few months to get us through to completion on that project. But as of right now, that is their primary focus. They're tying up some loose ends, waiting on West Kentucky Rural Electric, get some power over there to the lift station site down there at the industrial park, and at the booster station there at the water tower. As soon as that's run over there to those sites, they can finish up work at both those areas there and just really focus all their efforts on the interceptor sewer to completion. I'm more than happy to answer any questions you guys have. I know you had an opportunity to look at that change order a little bit. I have talked with the contractor there, Mertco, about their request for the dollar items there and things they've run into. I'm prepared to discuss that in any detail if you want. Just talk about the weather or some of the soil conditions that they ran into. Surprisingly, there's a whole lot of sand down there by the golf course. I don't know if they dug a hole and dumped all their sand trap material in there. But
Could have. All the sand traps are pretty much gone out there.
you get down there 15 foot better deep, you start running a whole lot of sand down in that area, and it causes for some pretty deep and wide excavations down there, and it just takes a lot of time to get through it and work through it in a safe manner. Found all kinds of stuff in Marshall County. Groundwater, rock. Didn't know we had that much rock around Marshall County.
So, question for you: does the proposed fee, does that include I know it says we're approximately 90% of the allocated time and expenses. Mm-hmm. Is this on top of the 100%, or is this on top of the 90%? I guess is my.
That reflects what was remaining. Our last invoice went through the end of August, and the last change order and the contract extension went through the September 4th date. So as of August 28th in Rivercrest invoicing, we were about 90% complete through our engineering and our inspection services. So I've used that, as far as, the 3-month extension to the contract, I've credited back that 10% that we hadn't billed yet, so I've taken that out.
Okay,
So what you're seeing is that's in addition to what's already been approved.
okay.
That does not include the 10% remaining.
Is it safe to assume if we have good weather and they finish this a little bit ahead of schedule on this extension, that this amount will be a little less?
Could be. I mean,
Okay.
I can't answer that question until we get there, but yes, it could be. We'll get to that point. And we can talk about that. The way this is written up, just in all honesty, that's a lump sum. It's not an hourly thing, but I can talk with Brian about it. And additionally, if they come in and they're complete with everything by the end of October, I don't see any reason why we'd need to spend that required time through the month of November.
Okay.
To close up the project.
Thank you.
There are some other things after construction as far as record drawings and some things that we will have to prepare in our office to get the project complete. So there will be some work that will carry over into the month of November, I'm almost certain, but I don't know that it would take all the way through that month for sure.
Is there any other questions? Did you mention about your engineering proposal as well?
I think that's what's Kevin's request. His questions were in regards to that, but the change order itself, there's a contract change order in there also, and that is in regards to Merco's request for the additional materials they're spent for the work on the booster pump station was probably the biggest one of all those, and that was really just due to age. We talked to manufacturers' reps, and you'd hate to believe it, but after 5 years of sitting without any power on it and any water to it, those bearings do seize up, and they have seized up. And so we had to do some rebuild work on those pumps to get them up to speed. And then this is requesting approval to move forward to replace some drives on those pumps as well.
I move we approve the Merco change order and contract extensions.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
And I move that we approve the Rivercrest proposal as well.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. And while I've got you here, Chad, we had our public meeting for the sewer district, Graftonville, the expansion. Chad has put together some updated documents after that meeting. Looking at our schedule coming up, if we get it advertised for a public meeting or a public meeting on this issue, we'd have to get it in by next Tuesday's publication. We're looking at maybe the 28th, Monday at noon. And Corey has reached out to some, we've got everybody that was here for that meeting, they signed in, so we've got their contact information, and Corey reached out to several yesterday, so you're going to follow up again today. But that would be another public meeting just to kind of give them an update with what we had discussed in the first public meeting. And if that is good with everybody, we'll just plan for that. We'll go ahead. I think we'd have to have a motion to advertise it for the public meeting. Or can we announce it?
You can announce it today.
Okay. So then we'll just go ahead and make the public meeting regarding the sanitation expansion in Graftonville for Monday, the 28th at noon.
I probably will not be available just because of traffic court that day, but
Okay. I
don't think my presence is essential for that type of meeting anyway. So.
Yeah, we're not going to do any action. We're just going from the first meeting, we had discussed possible line extensions and some changes, and we're going to show the court what the engineers have come up with. And then some of the business owners, Chad has got some stuff for them outside of our preview. So, but yeah. All right. No further questions? Appreciate it, Chad. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chad.
Going with Brian Cutsinger. Where's he at? There, you're hiding behind that podium. Good morning.
When you're short, it's easy to hide. I'm here today because I've recently completed the specifications, putting together specifications to replace our oldest ambulance. Each one of our ambulances is in service for around 6 years. When it comes time for replacement, they generally have 200,000 plus miles on them. The dollar amount that is estimated for this project, which would include, it's kind of a two-part project. It's one part of it is the actual remount of the ambulance. The second part would be the Stryker power load system that would go in the back of it. These monies are budgeted for. I think we have $125,000 in our equipment budget for these. The cost for the power load system, I do have a quote from Stryker. The actual cost for that would be $21,848.94. The estimated remount cost, which I've met with some people and discussed what it would take to do our remount, like the shape it's in and what they kind of estimate. And I'm estimating somewhere around $100,000 to do the actual remount of the ambulance. The last one we had done that was a Type 3 ambulance cost us $90,400. So I'm estimating that this total project would be around $121,848, which would put us just below our budget amount that we have for equipment. Today I'm here for approval of the court to go out for bid for both the ambulance remount and the Stryker power load system.
I move that we allow him to bid.
Second.
And that's the, do we want to do two motions, the ambulance remount?
Yeah, I'll do.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. And then we'll need another bid or another motion for the Stryker mount, power load
So
mount.
moved.
There a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, sir.
Hey, Brian, can I ask for, do you have an update on the grant for those Lucas?
It's the Homeland Security grant?
Yes.
Should be this month. I know
Okay.
the past few years, they've usually announced the grant winners toward the end of September. So I'm hoping any day.
Any
now.
day?
It
Okay.
could be any day now.
Okay,
So hopefully sooner rather than later.
okay, sounds good, thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brian. Next on the agenda, I'd reached out to Brandon Marshall with KSP to come and just educate us as a court on P25 and DMR. And I think it's important that we understand, it is a lot of technical stuff, but just that we understand a summary overview of what the difference is. So thank you, Brandon, for being here today. And I did get your email with some detailed information on the differences, but I think for the court, it's best for us to hear from you to understand. So,
Good
You got
morning,
us.
everybody. My
Good
name is
morning.
Brandon Marshall. I'm with the Kentucky State Police Communications Branch. Been with that since 1997. I am our Land Mobile Radio Programs Manager, so I manage everything radio involving the Kentucky State Police. This gentleman to my left happens to be my boss. Despite the mask, he's not here to rob Fiscal Court. That's Major Jeremy Merle. He resides over all of technical services. So at the judge's request, you all asked that we come down and just discuss what is P25 or what standards-based radio actually is. So when radios started to make the transition to digital, and I promise not to bore you all with a great deal of technical talk, when they started to make that transition to digital, there are different digital formats in which radios can talk and communicate. I want you to think of it as this radio's digital function may be English, and this radio's digital function may be French. So they speak different digital languages over the air when they attempt to talk to one another and can't. So when that first came about, the federal government recognized that there needed to be a standard that was set for all of public safety. And that standard was created with the help of public safety officials, including what was formerly known as the federal government's Office of Emergency Communications, which falls under Homeland Security. Now it's called CISA. They've added in some cybersecurity stuff there as well. But with APCO, with different public safety partners, with OEC, they all developed a set of standards and then went out and let different radio manufacturers try to achieve those goals in those standards. And what came back and what was adopted by the federal government was P25. So what is P25? P25 is a suite of standards and specifications which enable interoperability among digital two-way land mobile radio communications provided by multiple manufacturers to support the mission critical public safety requirements. Why is purchasing P25 equipment and related systems so important to the public safety community? So following 9/11, when all those after action reports came out, it really became evident that when you have multiple agencies working on scene to one another, whose common core mission every day might not involve them communicating, but when that situation arises, and I'm sure Marshall County is way more sensitive to this, these events and the possibility of these events occurring than other possible agencies that we go out and have these same talks with, it's critical and it's imperative that we're on the same format and that we operate and talk and have that ability. So is P25 the only digital standard that's out there? No, there are many others. So Motorola offers a proprietary system called Moto Turbo. Kenwood offers NXD, and I believe Harris has their own as well, and I can't think of the name of it off the top of my head. Those are standards. There's another system called Tetra. Tetra happens to be the adopted standard for all of Europe. But in the United States, it's P25. It's Project 25, and that is the standard. So there are others, but this is the one that was adopted by Congress. This is the one that OEC helped create, and this is what they try to push us towards. So it's important to stay standards-based so that you can also talk to each other. The last thing that I'll say about P25 and following that guidance is Marshall County, I just heard somebody make mention a minute ago about Homeland Security grant funding. So one of the requirements about Homeland Security grant funding for communications is that it's P25 equipment. So there are no grant dollars that are attached to proprietary or stovepipe systems, as we like to call them, where you're off on your own element. Those grant monies are handed out in order to aid and improve interoperability. And if you're not following those interoperability standards, one of the other things that I do is I also sit on the Public Safety Working Group, which is the technical arm of the Kentucky Wireless Interoperability Executive Committee, or the QUIC. So one of our functions there is we also score those Homeland Security grant dollars, those grants, anytime it's a communications grant. So I can assure you, as to date, and I've been doing that for almost 10 years, we have never even scored, much less awarded money to a proprietary system. Now, prior to that, before the SAFECOM guidance came out from DHS, clearly stating that those monies had to be spent on P25 radios and P25 equipment, there were some awards in Kentucky that were, and it helped kind of prolong this transition for some agencies. So those are the important things that you need to know. When something happens, when people come to support Marshall County on a federal or on a state or even in a local, another county, an adjacent county, when other people come to support you, they will, or at least should be, P25. The state will be, and the federal government will be as well. So it's important that we all walk that same path together. Oftentimes, the state police is very fortunate, in my mind, that we have branches and technical assistants and people whose dedicated jobs are to know this technology and to know these industry standards and stay up to date on that. we recognize that oftentimes local agencies, cities, counties working with a much more limited budget than we do don't have their own in-house technical support or their in-house technical assistance. We're really glad that you all reached out to us. It happens all the time. So probably at least 2 or 3 days out of each month, I'm at this county or that county, somewhere in the state, offering technical assistance and just trying to be an ear you all can bounce that off of before making these technical decisions when it comes to your two-way communication systems. And we love to do that. And I hope you all love to have us here, because it seems to be so far, I'm the only person that stood up here and hasn't asked Fiscal Court for any money or funding in any way. So we're here to help you all out and offer you all any technical assistance that we can. And if anybody has any questions, I'd be glad to field those.
Does anybody have any questions for Brandon? And if you don't, obviously, he's available.
24/7.
Yep.
I guess this would be a good time to maybe talk about this, especially with you here. I mean, what I would like to see, I feel like over the last few weeks, we're kind of in the middle of a Schumer and McConnell type deal where we have we can't get together. And I guess my question would be, would you attend a meeting if we could get a meeting with I mean, I think privately, whether it's you and 911 and the sheriff's department need to meet individually, and you can be involved, and let's resolve this.
Well,
Getting everybody at the table.
We are
Now-
P25 now. That's,
Yeah.
yeah, we're
As far
already
as
there.
But I
P25
guess
are there.
I'm talking the communications issues that we've been talking about over the last few weeks, and I don't know if you've heard about any of that or not, but.
Well, and I understand what you're saying. I don't want to drag them into that. As far as what the court has done for the infrastructure, as of yesterday, that has been completed. Now, Eddie and I spoke on Friday as far as the radios. But as far as P25, as Eddie said, we're already P25. I think it was important for the court to understand the difference between P25 and DMR, because there are some responders that are pushing DMR. Callaway County, for an example, is used as an example as a fiscal court that has already approved DMR. And what Brandon just stated, we don't want to go that route. So that's why I asked him here, was to educate you guys on P25 and DMR, because that in itself, you're going to need somebody like him or Chris, somebody that really understands the difference between DMR and P25 to help us understand it. And that's why I asked them to be here. As far as our local infrastructure that the court has been doing and funding, when we talk about funding, that was completed yesterday to all 3 tower locations. That equipment, I mean, you came out to South Marshall. That's done. The next step is, and Eddie and I talked about this on Friday, is his portable mobile radios.
So the other 2 repeaters were put up yesterday?
Yes, yeah. So, I mean, as far as what the court and the 911 took action on to upgrade, or not really upgrade, but to fix the infrastructure, the equipment that supports his radios. There's 2 different things. That was completed yesterday. The next step is to take a look at the actual agency's radios. But for today, and I understand what you're saying, but we really don't want to drag them into that. He's really here for P25.
You're never dragging us into anything. So when the
DMR.
Kentucky State Police is in Marshall County, we need your help and your support.
Yeah.
So it's important that we're all working together all the time. So our assistance that we offer isn't just totally about standards-based either. If there's other technical issues that you all have or may have or might need some help or assistance with, we'd be glad to help with that also, Judge. So
Sure.
we're a phone call away all the time.
And I guess we'll
Absolutely.
have to see after we see the outcome of these other two repeaters being installed, did that eliminate our communication issues we were having?
Yeah.
I mean, I realize.
I'm unfamiliar
Yeah, I
with what you're
understand.
speaking about, so.
I realize we have
Yeah.
P25 and we're staying with P25. And
fantastic.
I realize all of the pros for that. I don't think there's too many cons. But I also realize even having it, we need to have adequate communications with it. And we need to constantly be assessing that, especially now with the new equipment up to make sure it's covered everything.
Like a good question that I think for the court would be, if you have digital, P25 is digital.
Yes, sir.
If you go into a concrete facility,
Yes, sir.
what problems are you going to expect?
You're going to see system degradation. So cellular infrastructure, these devices, I think I left mine sitting on the bench right there. It's no more than digital radio, right? So it's trunk digital radio. That's all it is. You can watch your bars, just like everybody does. You walk into a concrete building, what happens to your bars? So there are things that you can do to help and assist that. If we're talking about in-building coverage, if you all are having in-building coverage issues, I would highly encourage you all to contact Andrew Barrett with Louisville Metro Safe. So it wasn't him at the time, it was Gary Vance, his predecessor, who's the deputy director of Metro Safe. And he and I are sitting in a meeting together one day, and he said, Brandon, we're finally going to get our new radio system. It's going to be fantastic. And I said, really? And he said, yes. He said, we're going to have in-building coverage, in-building portable coverage all over the city of Louisville, not Jefferson County's full metro area, just in the city of Louisville. We're going to have in-building coverage all over the city of Louisville. I said, that's fantastic. What's it going to cost? And he shot me a number, and I kind of giggled. And he said, what do you mean? And I said, how many tower sites are they planning on using? He said, well, we're going to use 16 tower sites. I said, I'm going to be honest with you. 16 tower sites over the city of Louisville, you're not going to get in-building coverage, not in 700 and 800 megahertz. It's not going to happen. So how many cellular towers do you think there are in the city of Louisville? More than 16. That's a business. They get paid to provide coverage, and they can't provide it everywhere. The idea that you're ever going to get dollars, the dollars that it would take to fund in-building portable coverage, and I don't know anything about Marshall County's fiscal situation, and I don't want to claim to be knowledgeable about that, but I would assume that Jefferson County probably has a little more budget to work with and a higher tax base than Marshall County. But they couldn't do it. So in-building coverage is very tricky. So there are things that you can look at in different scenarios and situations. It's about targeting these buildings that you definitely want coverage in when you're building and designing your radio system. And the one thing that I would definitely encourage you all, it sounds like you all are in the middle of a communications overhaul, is do not deal strictly with one vendor. That's always easy to say out loud, but it's usually much harder to accomplish. But do not deal with one vendor. These people make their money off of the sales that they make. It's very obvious, right? Mm-hmm. The Kentucky State Police, I do not get paid according to how many fiscal court meetings I stand at and say P25 is the standard, or let me review those propagation studies for what your vendor has sent you and look at that and tell you they're lying to you. So I'm not paid on commission, nor do I have anything vested on helping other counties make their decisions as far as radio systems or any two-way communications. So we do it because we need to talk to you all. We need you all as partners. And we know that we have some technical staff, and most locals and counties and smaller agencies don't have their own technical support staff. So it's a complicated field and it's a complicated industry. I've been doing this for 24 years. I don't know everything, all right, and don't claim to. So the idea that we would expect a small local fire department to have somebody on staff that can review that and make those types of decisions, you're asking for a lot, right? You're asking for a whole lot. What happens, we see all the time, is we see local entities buy into whatever their vendor's telling them, because their vendors have engineers, right? And these engineers make hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. They make more if they sell you more. So it's hard to fall into that trap of trusting those people. But again, I'll just close and say that we're here if you need us, and we're glad to help you all any way we can.
Yep. Thank you, Brandon.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thanks.
So our next step with the radios is getting with the sheriff?
Yeah, the sheriff and I met Friday and spoke, and you know, we heard from Brandon as far as the P25. They're digital. We don't know. He's got his infrastructure as far as his portables and his mobiles, the brands, different models. But the goal would be to, and again, this didn't happen under the sheriff's watch. This is a long time. I don't know, when Brandon talks about the vendor, I don't even know who the vendor has been with previous sheriffs. But I know that redundancy, if one of his deputies were to have a portable or a mobile, say, you know, his portable goes out for whatever reason. If there's not a backup portable to where that individual officer can get that and go out and continue working, we need to have that type of redundancy for the agency. So right now it is the portable radios that need to be looked at.
Can I bring Tim up real quick, just to,
Yeah.
he can kind of give us a better, because I think all of our cars, does not all 14 cars have new radios?
On the newest, for the
For
patrol.
patrol sides, yeah.
Anyway, they all have the Kenwood's 5200, which are fairly, I mean, obviously it's a new system. The portables are the 5700s, I believe, and we have, I believe, 10 of those currently. Motorola's, what everybody else is still carrying, and I don't know for certain how those are going to mesh with the new system. We haven't, if there's going to be a program, and we haven't had time to sit down and talk with Director Freeman yet or anything on that, on those. But as far as our patrol cars, and probably half of our patrol radios are already new, so I guess we need to look at making sure we don't need to replace something that doesn't need to replace. Is it one that's already capable of doing what we need? Obviously, there are some older radios. I mean, my Motorola is 10 years old. Anything electronic, you know, changes substantially.
Absolutely.
with a matter of time. So I definitely think there are some radios that we could use to upgrade and improve. As we've been going through buying radios over this last 2 years that we've had input in this, we've been getting the Kenwoods, which are the newer, better ones recommended from various different people. So.
And just help the court, because
I think you're looking at what we do need department-wide, because you're talking 40 portable radios and 40 mobiles. So I think if you wanted to take that first step and purchase new mobiles for every unit, it would probably need 30 mobiles and then 30 more portables, would you think?
Probably. At least we can get a definite number on that if that's.
And then if we can
figure out
have
what we have it.
two for redundant, you know, when something goes down, that we can just plug and play, that would be a good first step. But big picture, what I was going to request, if the 2 repeaters hadn't been put up, let's put those repeaters on temporary sites in Brewers and in Possum Trot. If the 2 that we just replaced were functional, and then let's order 2 more for those sites that can be put up at a later date. That way that could help us. But what I would ask the court at least, because the last study I saw showed an 8-tower system, and we've been running on 2 until last week, and now we're running on 3. Just expedite that service, or expedite that process of getting us at least to a 5-tower site, like ASAP, like nothing else. But let's find even if it's a temporary site. I know it may not have the backup generator or all of that installed, but at least when we have power, we've got a 5 repeater site that we can work on, and hopefully have something like that set up. I know, there's some water towers and grain bins and things out in Brewers that maybe we can partner with. I know Callaway had talked to one specific farmer that said he could just put it up there for nothing. So, I'm sure we'd have to come up with some type of agreement there, but
So how high are you talking about? Like I know
think they
some folks
range-
in Possum Trot that.
Yeah, I think they range from 120 to 200 feet.
Yeah, and I think, one of the things that has to be done first is multiple propagation studies, because we don't want to be putting infrastructure that's not secured on a tower or water tower that, if you look at the propagation studies, that's not where maybe the dead space may be, or terrain or whatever is an issue. We do have, I think, I know I've seen one propagation study, and I think you were given.
I've
given
got one,
that-
I think it's just for the sheriff's radio.
Yeah.
So, but
It was
it,
talking about just temporary, right? Until you could get something better.
until, yeah, I mean, we just need that.
Well, we got, yeah, and I
Something's better than
understand
nothing
that.
for sure.
But just like what we're putting in today is a generator from a lightning strike. And I think
Yeah.
during that lightning strike, there were over 200 events of lightning. We don't want to run out, throw up equipment, and not protect it, and then we end up wasting money. It probably would be covered by insurance, but definitely propagation studies to identify where our infrastructure
Yeah.
needs to be. Now, there are some towers that are being completed. To understand a little bit about the towers, you got to go through PSC. There is a process. So when we say ASAP, some of these towers that are being erected from the ground up, there is a process. Now, existing structures.
If we're building our own towers,
Correct.
that's great long-term. Yeah, I'm just saying, let's do this to where, and then we can move, the repeater can go to the other tower, and then it's just a plug and play as far as I can picture in my head.
Yeah.
You may lose an antenna or something if you don't want to crawl back up there and get it, but we can get the actual infrastructure moved over, and then we own that tower.
And I want to make sure that right now with the, I know, Tim, you just mentioned your portable is 10 years old. The current radios that we have, one of the things with communications, if you don't have, say your mobile or your portable has 5-watt capability, but if it's pushing 1 watt, you're not going to get that signal. So we have to make sure that if we're talking about buying.
Yeah, I'm not against that. Don't get me wrong. I'm not against us buying. Obviously, I don't want to replace the ones we just bought in the last year or so. Those are
Right.
same model.
Those are good.
If they're capable, I mean, if
Yeah.
they're capable in what we need to move towards the future, then we don't need to throw money at that if we already have that. But I guess we need to look at to see if those are the ones that are capable. I mean, those were the ones that were recommended by at least 2 different companies, if that's what we need to be using for the P25, to be able to go into the next gen and all that stuff. So if those are the ones that are capable, but the
Right.
Motorola's obviously are older.
Well, and like you and I had talked, I sent you that
I've got it.
that draft. That's the next step is to get those radios. And I get it. I had that redundancy with the agency I worked with, so I get it to where you guys can have some radios on the shelf, so to speak. But yeah, I don't think that's going to be a problem.
Okay.
I did
and-
get a study yesterday as well, and they recommended a minimum of a 4 site, because right now, and they sent me a topographical view of it with just the 3, the entire southwest corner is obviously very blank, and they recommended at least a minimum of 4 tower site to even get.
Including what we have, or are you
Yes,
saying
yes.
4, you're not
No,
saying 4
including
additional,
what we
you're just
have,
saying
yes.
at least 4.
Having a minimum of 4 to really give, that's kind of a bare minimum, but to give the basic standard
Yeah.
of what we need. Because right now,
Yeah.
if you look at our towers, it's in Calvert, it's in Draftonville, and it's in Aurora. So you obviously you move over towards Brewers.
You're
all that
losing
area,
west, yeah.
It's just a dead
Yeah.
spot, so.
Yeah, trust me, every time I talk to him on the cell phone, I want to
Yes.
kill him.
As far as these repeaters and stuff, I just want to make sure that, since I have represented all emergency responders lately, that this is just fixing our system. We've still got, you still have fire and EMS. I don't want Cutsinger's here, so I don't want to speak for him, but we still have those problems there. Are you all on that P25 as well? So
Yeah, if you
how
remember.
would that work as far as?
Well, the court's already been approved for a grant for 3 fire repeaters and 1 EMS repeater. There's other, it's going to be a long process. This didn't happen overnight, and fixing this problem is not going to happen overnight. But I think that to make sure the court understands the 3 locations that were existing from years ago, that's when we talk about the repeaters. That's what's been put up.
Yeah.
Do we need more coverage?
We do need more coverage,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Do we need to have a better system in place to where we never end up in this situation again? Absolutely. As far as the communication and stuff, I mean, that was brought to the court. We're moving that forward. We're all on the same page here to get better service. Do we have, like the fire districts, they're taxing districts. We don't control the fire districts as far as what they want to put up. The agencies, the municipalities, Benton and Calvert, we don't control their radios. They operate on your channel. A lot of people don't realize that you have 3 agencies operating on your channel. That's a mess. I mean, we need to have, long-term, we need to be looking at opportunities like UHF to get alternate channels for those agencies. But when it comes to the fiscal court, what do we do have the opportunity to help? Benton and Calvert City, they put whatever radios they want to use, and I think they're all P25. But as far as
I wouldn't necessarily be for them being on their own channel, though. Maybe that might mess something up for whatever's planned, but I think us and Calvert need to be on the same frequency as long as possible.
No, what I'm referring to
Maybe I
is,
misunderstood you.
is having a redundant channel to where
Okay.
if you have an event,
The channel goes down and you
yes,
need another. Okay.
you have, well, you have say we have,
We have nowhere to move the 2 to give both of them
Yeah.
equal airtime.
Yeah, I'm fine with
Yeah.
that. That's fine, yeah.
yeah. Because, we're thinking about, right now, the individual outside dealing with the event, but there's a line of communication in between. We have to also think about everybody that's involved in that communication line. And if, right now, the way our system is set up, I mean, you can put yourself in your shoes. You got a 10-year-old portable radio. You're going into a hot situation with dead space. You can't really communicate, or you can't communicate. And then you've got multiple agencies on one channel. And so that individual taking that emergency call, sitting in that room trying to manage it, you can see where this has definitely got room to improve. So
I just don't want to see it confused that we're shifting the blame to the radios, regardless of whether they're outdated or not. Because we've got enough new radios that still have the problem with our infrastructure that we have in place. It needs to be upgraded. I'm not disagreeing with you there.
Absolutely.
But
100% needs to be upgraded.
We've got good radios that are still not getting out. So that's what we have to, number one, start gauging right now, since as of yesterday, we have new infrastructure, but
if
let's
you
start
can
gauging
give,
where we at.
if you can give your infrastructure, your assets that you have, as far as the make, model, the year, the current, when was the last time they were programmed, or all that information, so that we can identify. We don't have any of that information. I mean, we have to rely on you telling us that this piece of equipment is working, but we don't have that information. I mean, I would like for the court to see that information, to make sure that your equipment, when we go into replacing, obviously, I told you, get all new, same model, everything. Get all new equipment.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
And right now, we don't know. We have no data to see, and that's been at your agency level. Without that information, we can't determine. And I know we've talked about this. When you have communication, there's point A and point B, everything in between. When we have to check something that's not working, it could be the actual radio, it can be the antenna, it can be something in between, but we have to have all that information. And I think just from an overview, looking at where we are today, there was nothing in place. Nobody was looking at that. Somebody was doing something over here. This piece over here was being done by this agency. It was so sporadic that when we end up where we are today, when people start looking into it, we identify this is worse than what we expected. And I'm not even going to get into the name blaming. This is just a bad situation. We just need to fix it. And that's what we're going to do. But we have to make sure that we don't throw money at it. We have to make sure that what we're fixing needs to be fixed. And when there's a standard, especially a federal and a state standard, we need to be in compliance with that, in my opinion. We don't want to be, and I'll say Callaway County, on an island. We're not going to do that. But we need to do this the right way and getting all the information that's needed. No one is objecting to that. I think if there's any objection, it's maybe the process going about it. We
The time
definitely
frame,
don't
yeah,
want
that's been the biggest frustration. You know, it took us 9 months to do something that it shouldn't have taken us 9 months. That's our biggest frustration, and we don't have time when it comes to life. You know, we don't have that time.
And no one's going to argue with that, Eddie. But when you look at like this, some of the issues that we're seeing have been over 10 years, and maybe even longer. So to come in and say, slap the table and say you got 9 months to get this done, that's
the reason it hadn't been done is that we hadn't had the money.
Well, no, that's when it comes to the agency, you manage
at least
the
since
money.
2015 when you got here, we haven't had money, right?
I'm not gonna get into.
Okay, but here's the thing.
We're gonna
I think the
fix
biggest thing to do
the
to fix this problem is that you have fire representation, you have EMS representation, you have police representation that all sits down and tells you what we have. We don't have that anymore. You can say the advisory board, the advisory board's not met since I've been sheriff.
The advisory board has met once, no one showed up, except a few people. I think Chief Sanders showed up, myself, the 911 director. The advisory board is not, when it comes to.
But it helps with that infrastructure. I mean, it helps you to share that information of what we have and what we need fixed, or what fire has, what they need fixed, or what.
The advisory board has all the representatives that were put in place by, in 2017, when that ordinance was put in, that was requested by the emergency responders to put 9 representatives. Everyone has a representative. Fire department has 3. There's only been one time that's been called together. But look, we're getting away from what our true mission here is to fix this infrastructure. And that's what we're going to do.
I feel like that gets us
We'll have
closer.
some discussions later, but
I'm going to rely on you all from this point forward to make sure that everyone is held accountable, timelines, get it done. If we don't have a seat at the table, you all please be our seat at the table.
Who all can call a meeting for the advisory board?
it's in the ordinance. You can have 3 of those representatives call a meeting. The meeting that you did not show up to, that those 3 individuals had called, there were 3. It's spelled out in the ordinance. The advisory board is when you're plugged in the 911. The advisory board is not with the infrastructure. Just like what we had just talked about.
And the advisory board also doesn't have any type of authority over, I mean, it's just that, it's just an advisory board.
To make things clear.
Can I sit down?
Yes, please. That's
Thank you to the
this.
board.
This is.
You can sit here if you want. You want to sit here?
Thank you for the input for now. For
Yes.
The desire to fix I mean, obviously, there's been a problem for a long time, long before any of us were here. Even there's been an ongoing problem that needs to be fixed.
Yes,
Thank you for the board
absolutely.
for looking at that. There's different avenues to move forward from here, but thank you for the time and the input to fix that. So.
when you look at this document here, this was signed over to 911. 911 does not have the responsibility of the infrastructure for your channel, nor the mobile radios and the portables.
That's correct.
That was signed, the actual equipment that supports those radios was signed over. The fiscal court is stepping in to help. We started this, I know Chris came to the fiscal court and gave an update. We specifically talked about the infrastructure. We funded it. He did his research, and we just completed it yesterday. We went through a process of a tower being built. There was a whole lot of things that we don't have control of. So to say that something that has been going on for years, that it's our responsibility to be kind of the heel of the boot on us.
If you don't want the control, we can tear it up.
Listen,
I gave it to him because he was the experts coming in.
We got it done. Now the next step is the portable and the mobile radios. We need from you, and we'll get that information so that we can move forward collectively to get what is needed so that those portable radios and those mobile radios, are new, programmed correctly, operating at the wattage that it needs to be operating at. That's the type of stuff that we need to do. Now, is it the fiscal court's responsibility? We're stepping in to help. But do we, as the fiscal court, know what you have? That's what we need to get the information
I'm
from.
okay with that. I'm not arguing with the radio. I'm just saying we have to keep moving now. We know three-site tower. Nobody has recommended a three-site tower. We have to keep moving forward. I know it's going to be, it can't be a year process again. I know grant cycles and this and that. If we've got the money to put up, we can buy the repeater systems, even if they have to go up on a temporary repeater site.
What we need to
It's
do
not ideal, I understand that.
What we need to do right now is to make sure that with the three-site location that we have, we need to make sure that the mobile and the portables actually work. And what I mean by that is you just had a vendor in last week, and you called Chris down to help. And it's our knowledge that some of the mobile or portable radios are pushing what we just discussed, a watt or a half a watt. There's three of them. Okay, that's the type of information that we don't have. If you're, just as I asked, Brandon, if you have a portable radio that's pushing a half a watt, it doesn't matter what type of infrastructure you have in. I mean, that particular radio is just not pushing the watt that it needs.
I get that.
So we need to have that information for us to make fiscal, decisions. I'm not going to make a decision until we get that information because we're essentially throwing money at something. We need to correct this to where we never end up in this situation again.
I agree.
And there is a management issue here that we need to make sure that is being done. Management of assets. We've been talking about this for years, asset management. When I came in, there was no management system in place, and that was across the board for the county. We've put the asset management in. We need to put those assets in the same system, and then we actually put a management of that asset, just like we did with the generators, and that falls under the emergency management system. A lot of people don't realize is that when there's a tower, there's a generator. There should be a generator. There should be a housing for the equipment to protect it. It should be properly grounded because that's assets that we're spending money on. So we have that responsibility. We can't make those effective decisions until we have that information. So that's where we're at. We're going to get there. It's going to get done.
I think we got a lot of lack of communication. And I think a lot of it could be solved if everybody sat down. You give your side, this side over here, and we cut through the BS and just get it done. That's just my opinion.
I agree. Let's everybody sit down, or you guys sit down, like Monty suggested earlier, and have a meeting, discuss it. Lack of communication is not good, whether it's family or business.
All right, we're going to move on with correspondence. There's no correspondence. Old business, approved the minutes September 1st meeting.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item B, Southwest One land debt. This is, we had discussion last week, our last court meeting. Is there any further discussion on this?
Personally, I'd be more comfortable with, instead of paying the entire debt off, at least taking that portion of it that was the Riverport Authority money, because that's economic development. It needs to go towards economic development. Pay that, use that to pay down on the loan. And I feel like at this time, it's one of those situations. I think Commissioner Sprague mentioned it last time, and the more I've thought about it, I agree. In this particular economy that we're in, and the unknowns that are out there, it'd make me feel a lot more comfortable to be able to do that, and then look at it later down the road. Are we getting through this and pay it off at that point? That's my thought.
Any further discussion on this?
I would agree with Monty on that. I would rather hold the remainder of that until we have some clarity on the economy and the COVID and everything that's going to go along with that. Make sure we're not going to have another shutdown or something worse with this. And also, till we have these communication issues resolved and see what kind of cost that's going to involve.
Well, I'm gonna have to disagree. I think anytime you can pay off a debt, pay it off. It's just my opinion.
I've said this more than once. This is the last time I'm going to say it. Paying off our highest debt. You just got the correspondence from the council on the Lincoln County case. If you go back and you look, the fiscal court put a budget in place. In that budget, it has debt service for the bonds for the upfit. Almost $200,000. I think it's $197,000. When you look at our debt service for the bonds, paying this off, putting $153,000 to that debt service, and then eventually, with that heavy hammer, I think is a good way to put it. That $197,000, you're cutting that debt service almost to less than $100,000 on the fiscal court. So if there are, now that's long term, that's over 20 years. That's saving a lot of monies. And to table, I put a conservative budget in place with the occupational tax, because that's what you two are referring about, at $4.2 million as far as receipts. You raised it to 4.7, and now we're saying we want to sit and not make a decision on paying debt that's going to save us money. Does not make any sense to me. But that's my position on it. It reverts, it basically moves that $153,000 to our debt service on the bonds for the line extension for water and sewer. And it opens up monies. Having the vision, it opens up monies for the fiscal court to take on other projects. But
We have a lot of places in the county that still lack water, don't have internet.
absolutely.
I make a motion, we pay off the debt.
And I'll second that motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
No.
Motion fails. We'll move on to new business, road department new hire. Roy had done interviews. This gentleman was in those interviews. We had an opening back when they did the interviews. We hired a gentleman, and then we got a retiree coming up. So Roy just basically went back to the same interviews and selected Jason Neal. And I just want to be clear, this man is not related to me. You guys may think it's funny, but people get persecuted in this county, and I don't agree with it. And I don't think it's funny. But this man is not related to me, and we owe him that respect. He's a hardworking individual that comes from another county government, and I want to put that on the record now before people bash him publicly, because as an elected official with county employees, we should be taking care of our county employees. So I want to say that openly. But he does come from a background. You interviewed him. If you got anything you want to say about the young man?
Come from the highway department, and
Who's he replacing, did you say?
David Henderson is retiring October the 1st.
And his position would start October 1st. So the motion would be to accept the new hire to replace
Do you need
retiring
his,
employee.
is it in there? Do you need the salary in there? Or do we just?
Well, I think right now, because he has to give a 2 weeks' notice, and we're going to be on October 1 before our next court meeting. Brad typically does the HR with the pay scale, but he'll be coming in at the regular entry rate that everyone else does.
Okay, so move.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Move for a short recess.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We'll go ahead and call fiscal court back to order. The training incentives on new business under B, this is for Kevin Spraggs and Tim York.
Do them both in one, or do we need to separate?
I'd say we,
I make the motion that we approve both training incentives for Tim York and Kevin Spraggs.
Second.
all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item C, 2020 tax assessment information. There's quite a bit of information, so I'm going to let Erica update the court on this.
We actually talked about it a little bit before you came in here.
Oh, well, good.
So the fiscal court, of course, needs to decide what they're going to set the general fund rate at. The compensating rate's 9.4. It's the same as what it was last year. The other taxing districts will get us the rates that they set by the end of the month, and we'll have to do this order that has everybody's rates on it. You guys will have to approve that so that they can start printing bills. Towards the end of the month's best, if you're already going to have a meeting on the 28th, maybe that's a good day to get together to, once all the taxing districts give me that information. But for today, I think you need to discuss what you want to set the general fund rate at.
Yep. We traditionally go with what the state put out, so.
Yes, and I did put this in your drive. This is just for your information. It's historical, all the way back to 2000, what all the rates have always been, in case you were just curious what our previous year's rates were.
I looked back on that, but, I was talking to you earlier about that, and I made some notes. I think even at that compensating factor, it would give us somewhere in the neighborhood of $190,000 surplus over what we budgeted.
Yes, and I believe you're right, and I think I told you this, but for everybody who didn't hear, traditionally, that's how it has been set up in our budget, is we take what we believe we're going to get, and we just take a portion of that. I can't remember if it was 80%, 90%, something like that, just as a cautionary measure. So our budget's a little bit set up that way, just to make sure because you never know what percentage of people is not going to pay, delay their taxes or whatever.
So the recommendation is leaving it the same? Is that what you said? I'm sorry.
Oh, the compensating rate is 9.4, which is the same as last year. So that's calculated by the state.
Okay.
Well, if that's what the court wants to keep it, 9.4. But yes, we'd need a motion.
I move we accept the compensating rate of 9.4%.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
You think between now and the 28th?
I was just about to say that. So is the 28th going to be okay for us to approve the order? And I'll let the districts I haven't heard of know that that's our hard deadline. Okay. 28th's okay? Okay.
Okay, so if we're going to do it on the 28th, then we need to announce then that it'll be a special meeting. In addition to the public hearing, we'll have a special meeting for that one agenda item.
Can we say following the public meeting?
Sure.
Okay.
Or before, yeah.
This would be only one item, so it'd probably be real quick to do.
Well, I also want to I would like to add on that same meeting, just last minute transfers. This is the end of a quarter. And so I'm going to make sure everything's ready to be sent as our quarter report. So I might have a couple of transfers that day.
Okay.
So 2 items for that.
Well, then why don't we do that before the noon public meeting? Do we have to give a specific time?
Yeah, when they just set it like 11:45.
11:45.
11:45.
So a special call meeting, 11:45 on September 28th.
Okay.
Here at the Fiscal Court room.
11:45.
So with that, because, I mean, I know it's later than usual, but we'll keep the same dates
I think
as
everybody.
far as
I kind of talked to
discount and,
Tim about it a little bit and,
Okay.
and to the PBA, Tony. And I think that the intention is to try to stay on track, even though a little bit of it has gotten off track with the, like I told you before court. The letters that we received that told us what our compensating rate was, they actually came about a month later than they normally do. So we're a little behind on that end, but I think that their hope is we catch it up and we're back on the regular schedule.
I think instead of, the last I heard from Trista, we're going to start collecting October 15th instead of the 1st. But that still gives over 30 days for discount, so
you have until November, the end of November?
30th before.
30th before you, okay. All right.
Yeah, I think so. And then.
To get the discount, and
it
then the
goes to
base
face
is
value.
January.
Yeah, because
Yeah, it
it goes face value?
Yeah.
So
I
you
may
think,
be wrong. Okay, yeah.
so you think
So you're
it'll
only going to get 2 weeks?
15 days?
You're only going to get 2 weeks of.
That's gonna be fun for y'all.
Of discount, yeah, so rock and roll. Instead of October 1st?
I don't know. I mean, is that something that comes down from who sets that date?
I think until we can get ready, it's as quick
Is that-
as.
Yeah,
Is that
I honestly don't
statutorily?
know. I think that that's
We're
something
ready to
that Tony
collect, we
works
got
out.
our
I'm not sure.
Quietus or whatever, so maybe we can start collecting early.
Okay,
On the 1st would be great.
well, but they'd have to be out.
Yeah.
I mean, we're voting on the
Never mind,
28th.
yeah. Then you don't even have them printed.
There's no
so
way. You have to get them
be pushing to
printed
get
and
them
out.
15th, yeah.
Okay.
Here's my dad will be the first one.
Yeah. I'll hold the door open for him.
Just don't even mail it. Just hold it. Just leave it at the door or at the, Trista, just pick us up. Carl.
All right, we'll go to item D, the bid opening for the courthouse roof. This is the ad that was put out Tuesday, September 8th, for the bids. We only had one bid, and that was from Mentor Roofing. Proposals submitted to the Morris County Courthouse. Attention, Brad, warning, Morris County Courthouse overhang area on the center section. As per your request, we are pleased to provide you with our proposal to perform the following items of work. Remove and properly dispose of EPDM gutter liner. Mechanically attach new poly-ISO insulation over existing metal gutter. Install new fully adhered 60 mil EPDM gutter liner. Install 60 mil EPDM approximately 18 to 24 inches up to the brick walls. Install new white Kynar 500 coated steel drip edge along outside edge. Install new Kynar 500 coated steel counter flashing at the brick wall. Color be chosen from the manufacturer standards colors. All labor, materials, and equipment required to perform the above work will be furnished for the sum of $45,038.00. Notes, any deteriorated metal gutter or frame work that is found will be repaired on a time and material basis. Our standard rates are $60 per man hour plus materials marked up 30%. Excludes any leaks from existing brick, cornice work, and/or roof drain piping. It appears that the existing roof cements and flashings that have been used to line the gutter may contain asbestos. Those materials must be tested by a qualified testing firm to ensure there is no asbestos present. If asbestos is found, it must be properly removed and disposed of by other priors to MRC starting the project. This cost is not in our estimate. We will need to close the walkways that lead to our work areas. This will include locking the entrance doors so that no one can enter or exit the building into our work area. We plan to only shut down one side of the building at a time. The man lift used to access the area is approximately 35,000 pounds. MRC is not responsible for any damage caused to, but not limited to, concrete, asphalt, grounds, and/or underground piping, utilities, etc. The Marsh County Courthouse is to have all underground pipes and utilities marked. MRC will try to avoid these areas as best as possible, but it may be necessary to drive across these areas. There are a few light poles as well as tree branches that will need to be removed in order for us to access the roof areas. This cost is not in our estimate. So that's the only bid we got.
That is more than just the area over here that's leaking, correct? It's on the other side of the building or all four sides?
Just this area. What's the wishes of the court?
Really have a figure in mind, but where would we take that money
Obviously,
from?
Tech and the special project crew haven't seen that.
Haven't seen what?
I mean, they have obviously haven't seen it, so.
For what?
Yeah, so we just opened it, so, I would like for them to take a look at those last provisions that you read about that equipment. I don't know if we've got pipes or anything that may be susceptible to damage. I'm glad they notified us that. I would like for them to be able to take a look at that.
We're meeting again the 28th. Better make a motion to table this till the 28th meeting. Give them a chance to look over that and the bid.
We got 30 days to approve it. So we can basically have tech look at this, is what you're saying, with the 35,000 pounds? Okay.
We table it to 28th or to the
Or
next
to the
court
next
meeting?
court meeting?
Yeah, we got 30 days on that.
I'll retract that and amend it to the next scheduled court meeting.
Second.
Does that need a motion?
Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
I
you
mean,
got
we
one
got-
if you need one.
All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We'll move on to board appointments. The library board, my appointment is Nancy Petty.
So move.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Jonathan Creek Water District Board appointment, is to fill a vacancy. Ron Davis is my appointment.
Move we approve.
There's a second.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. The refuse board appointment is to fill a vacancy. My appointment is Bruce Lyles.
I'll make that motion. I will like to impress upon the judge and the court that when the next board appointment does come open, that a member from District 1 is put on the board so there's equal representation on the refuse board. But I think Mr. Lyles do a good job, so I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. The PVA Appeal Board, that's the Fiscal Court's appointment this year. Marty Wiles is who I would like to see in that position. She's done this before, so that would be my appointment.
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. We'll go on to transfers, item F, under new business.
We have a transient tax transfer of $12,985.33.
Move we approve the transfer.
Second, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Payment of the bills.
Move we pay the bills.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Motion to adjourn.
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.